we saw in the end was Buckley taking yet another step toward greatness here. Luke Thomas entering the bout as the number 9 ranked welterweight. Buckley became just the second fighter joining Kamaru Usman to stop Colby Covington via strikes. This was due to a cut in this fight, and now riding a 6-fight win streak after cutting down to 170 pounds. Luke, my opening question is this. With victories now at welterweight over Luque, Wonderboy, Colby, is it time to take Numanza seriously as a title contender?
I think it is.
Was it already? Or was this the turning point for you?
This is, first of all, he had a fantastic calendar year, not just in 2024.
Yeah, why are we not mentioning him in the fighter of the year discussions? 4 fights, 3 finishes?
4 fights, 3 finishes, which is remarkable. Very busy, leveled up huge from where the year started to where the year ended. But I do think he's a legitimate title contender. I think that I felt like he was going to have certainly more firepower than Colby Covington heading into the contest, and of course that was true. And I thought he was going to have enough defense to get the job done, and that was certainly true. But I thought there might be some places where Colby is just going to know how to win and know what is going to be valuable at that moment in the round, like in a gut check time. And there was some evidence of that, by the way. Like there was times where Buckley electing to wrestle with him when he didn't need to, I thought was inadvisable. Didn't cost him in the end, but inadvisable. Nevertheless, Colby has a certain role to play in this division, although that's now rapidly diminishing. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But he was still very valuable as a test in this particular fight. If you look at Buckley, he is obviously physical for the weight class. He is now very experienced. They were saying he had nearly caught up. Colby had been in the UFC 10 years. He still had more fights, I think just a couple more than Buckley.
I think one more. Buckley had 15 and Colby had 14 during that.
Yeah, I mean, just an insane level of activity that, as we indicated.
Sorry, Buckley had 15 in like the last 5 years.
Yes.
Colby has 14 overall.
10.
Right?
No, I think was it 14 or was it 17, Long Island, Luke? Can you double check that?
Something like that.
I'll look.
Yeah, thanks. Either way, you get the idea. So now he's experienced. He's physical for the weight class. He's obviously a very good striker. Those digs to the body were fantastic from his lead right hand, which I loved. Takedown defense was on point. Scrambling.
Down blocking, just putting the pressure right on Colby's shoulder.
Amazing.
Colby had 16 going in, and Buckley had 14 going in.
Yeah, I mean, at half the time. It's ridiculous, right? And then on top of it, now just being in a main event, understanding the media pressures, dude, he is primed to absolutely. And we had talked about these guys who we thought were going to be at the top, and many of those did pan out. Jack Della Maddalena seems like he's destined for something big. Sean Brady seems like he's destined for something big. Shavkat Rakhmonov, obviously we've been on top of him. We had maybe overlooked Joaquin Buckley a little bit. We had maybe seen like, okay, he's acrobatic, he's got good skills.
Sure.
He'd been beaten kind of convincingly at times, stopped at times, up at 185. But he has matured, developed, and now raised his game, raised his profile, leaned into everything now that he's at welterweight. And BC, maybe you disagree, but I really feel like, do I see overwhelming evidence of a title future? I think that would be a little strong. But do I see somebody who can absolutely contend for a title, be a number 1 contender, beat other elite guys? I absolutely see that. He is for real.
I fully agree. Yeah, and he might have the best rack in all of the UFC, which we've said
before.
before.
Big-ass titties.
But I mean, all meat for sure on that regard. But seriously, the only thing we didn't really learn about him from this fight, which I was hoping for in his arc and his growth, was can he go past 3 rounds? How does he look in the championship rounds? We never actually got here in this case because of the early cut in round 1 on Colby, the constant stiff jabs to keep it to keep that wound flowing, and then you saw that step in and that stoppage, and we can certainly debate the relevancy of that stoppage in a second, but you can't argue with the win streak. You can't argue with the names, and that the 3 biggest names on the 6-fight win streak, he stopped all 3 of them in Luque, Wonderboy, and now Colby Covington. Let's not forget just a few fights ago that Numanza was on the microphone constantly pushing for an opportunity, a headlining role, a Conor McGregor fight, which we all made fun of him for. But the whole point is he's asking for more. The UFC is giving him opportunities, and he's passing each test. Luke, I do lament to a certain degree that for Buckley's arc, we didn't get this fight against Ian Gary like it was supposed to be, because that really, I think, would have shown us exactly where he's at. In some ways, fighting this version of Colby was maybe a little bit of a step back in terms of what he had the potential to show us. Yet he still went out there, brutalized him, cut him, and stopped him. So what else are we going to say about him? But he's won so much in a row. He's in such a firm spot that should an injury come to somebody and they have to go a little bit down the line, he's in striking distance to get the call for a title shot at this point. That's not crazy to say. even though he was ranked 9th coming in?
Yeah, you mean like on short notice?
On short notice.
Yes.
Like he's moving closer. Maybe he doesn't have that one victory on the level of what a Gary fight could have given him, but to have 6 in a row, to stop the 3 biggest names there, I'm super impressed. And Numanza in the post-fight press conference gave a little mic drop to what he believes his future should be. Let's listen to him.
That was a fantastic performance and a great win.
Appreciate it.
Did you kind of see that going that way before you got
Yeah. My first main event was a big success. I feel like the whole card, was very successful, getting a lot of knockouts. I feel like, my fight, shouldn't been stopped, but, it is what it is. You got to protect the fighters. But I feel like 2025, man, is definitely my year, and we definitely taking over, With this being said, this is on a 6-fight winning streak. I got, 8 knockouts, within the UFC. I feel like I done enough to really kind of put myself in a position to kind of, yet again, fight for that title. And even though I know that Shavkat is next, blessed to that fight. But if anything happens where Shavkat or Bilal doesn't, step up into the octagon, I want to, face them. So at the end of the day, man, we're going to keep this nice and short, bro. I'm definitely looking to take that throne, man, 2025, bro. So we out, baby. Thank you.
Hey, one and done. That's why I like it. Right to the point. I mean, look, a year ago, if I had asked you or if I told you that Buckley would be in this spot and went through the names he did, I don't know if you'd necessarily fully believe. I forgot that he had fought 4 times this year. When you think about it, it's like the fight of the year discussion has Topuria and Poatan on top, and we're all going to debate that on every publication and podcast for the next few weeks. But that second tier are still the championship level of guys that are in that discussion: Dricus du Plessis, Merab, Pantoja. But when you go below that, when you go to the non-title guys, and I think maybe you should throw somebody like Dakota Ditcheva into this conversation, even though she's a PFL champion, you're talking about guys like Carlos Prates, but you should be talking about Numanza as well for everything he's accomplished. 4 fights, 3 finishes. I mean, everything he said in that was true. He's a phone call away now from getting that. I didn't think he would get here. Credit to him, his growth. And if you notice on the broadcast, they mentioned that this is the first time he's got a camp catering just to him. It seems time for that. And that matters when you get to this level, it seems like.
I will say there is one thing missing from his resume, at least at welterweight of late. So if you look at the wins he has going back even to 2023, Andre Fialho, not in the UFC anymore, Alex Morno, good fighter, but sort of like a prelim card guy. Vicente Luque had a nice win recently, but I would say a lot of miles.
Sure.
Nursultan Ruzaboyev, a good fighter, but not again, more of a prelim kind of UFC fight night guy. Wonder Boy, great, but kind of old. And then Colby certainly held some status in this division, but I would argue also kind of old. The one thing lacking, not that he is, by the way, dodging the smoke. I think he is more than ready for it and asking for it. But the one thing that's missing is somebody else like him.
Agreed.
A new generation guy at welterweight, a Gary. A Brady.
Yeah.
A De La Maddalena. A Shavkat. The fact that he's now in that orbit, to me, just tells you how much he has raised his profile, as we just indicated. But he doesn't have a win over a guy like that yet. He's beaten all the other guys that he can, young guys who are not that great or older, aging veterans. The next level is where we're going to really get some sorting going on. But as we indicated, performed more than ably, looks awesome, has earned it.
Likeable.
Good for likeable.
Showed up at our 3 margarita show after it ended.
And thinking about and thinking about how he started the year with that weird Conor McGregor call out that like had the fans being like, "What are you doing?" And now, what is he doing? Less is more. Say less, right? And look at the result. We're all like, dude, this fucking guy is great. He started off the year, yes, winning, obviously, but trying to appeal to the fan base, kind of a ham-fisted way that didn't work. And now he learned from it. He watched. He observed. He changed. And now we couldn't be higher on him. Yeah. This is as high as we've ever been on him, and he earned every part of it.